The rain fell in heavy sheets, drumming against the cracked pavement of the small-town bus stop. It was well past midnight, and the flickering streetlight cast a pale glow over the scene. Clara sat on the bench, her white wedding dress soaked and clinging to her shivering frame. The lace veil, once pristine, was now a crumpled heap in her lap, stained with mascara and mud. Her bare feet, raw from running, curled against the cold metal of the bench. She had no shoes, no purse, no phone, just a broken heart and a bus. Ticket she couldn't use because the last bus had already left. Clara's fiancé, Ethan, had called off the wedding that morning. Not in a quiet, private moment, but in front of their gathered families and friends at the rehearsal dinner. His words still echoed in her mind. "I can't do this, Clara. You're not enough. I need someone who fits my future, my ambitions." The room had gone silent, every pair of eyes boring into her as she stood frozen in her cream-colored rehearsal dress. Ethan's mother, a woman who'd never hidden her disdain for Clara's modest background, had smirked. Clara's own parents, struggling to make ends meet, had looked away, humiliated. And then Clara had run, out of the venue, through the streets until she collapsed at this lonely bus stop, too ashamed to go home. As the rain intensified, a pair of headlights cut through the darkness. A beat-up pickup truck rumbled to a stop, its engine coughing before settling into a low hum. The driver's door creaked open, and a man stepped out, his work boots splashing in the puddles. He was tall, with broad shoulders and grease-stained hands that suggested a life of labor. His flannel shirt was damp, and his dark hair was plastered to his forehead, but his eyes, warm and brown, held a quiet kindness as they landed on Clara. "Hey," he called softly, holding up a hand to shield his face from the rain. "You, okay? It's pouring out here." Clara flinched, pulling her veil tighter around her shoulders. "I'm fine," she lied, her voice barely audible over the storm. The man hesitated, then took a step closer, staying under the bus stop's flimsy awning. "You don't look fine. No offense, but you look like you just ran out of a church in the middle of a vow." Clara's lips trembled, and she looked away. "Something like that." He nodded, as if he understood more than she'd said. "Name's Jack," he offered. "I'm a mechanic, work at the shop down on Route 17, just finished a late job and saw you sitting here. Ain't no buses running this late, you know." "I know," Clara whispered. I didn't have anywhere else to go." Jack studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable but gentle. Then he jerked his thumb toward his truck. "Come on, I got a spare jacket in the cab, and my place ain't far. You can dry off, get some coffee, figure out what's next. No funny business, I swear." Clara's instincts screamed to say no. She didn't know this man, and the world had already shown her enough cruelty today. But something in Jack's voice, steady and sincere, made her pause. She had no other options, and the cold was seeping into her bones. With a small nod, she stood, clutching her sodden dress, and followed him to the truck. The drive was quiet, save for the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers. Jack didn't pry, though Clara caught him glancing at her now and then, concern etched into his weathered features. His truck smelled of oil and leather, and a worn toolbox rattled in the back. When they pulled up to a modest single-story house on the edge of town, Clara felt a flicker of unease, but Jack's calm demeanor eased her nerves. Inside, the house was simple but warm. A threadbare couch sat in the living room, flanked by a coffee table cluttered with car manuals and a half-empty mug. Jack disappeared into a hallway and returned with a flannel shirt, sweatpants, and a towel. "Bathroom's down the hall," he said. "Change into these. I'll get the coffee going." Clara emerged a few minutes later, her wet dress abandoned in the bathroom sink. Jack's clothes were too big, the sleeves of the flannel dangling past her hands, but they were dry and smelled faintly of soap. She found him in the kitchen, pouring coffee into 2 chipped mugs. He slid one across the counter to her and leaned against the sink, giving her space. "Want to talk about it?" he asked, his tone careful. Clara stared into her coffee, the steam curling up like a ghost. The words spilled out before she could stop them. Ethan's betrayal, his cold dismissal, the way he'd made her feel small and unworthy. She told Jack about her life, growing up in a trailer park, working 2 jobs to put herself through community college, dreaming of a future where she could be more than just Clara. Ethan had promised her that future, with his slick smile and his family's wealth, but it had all been a lie. Jack listened without interrupting, his hands wrapped around his mug. When she finished, her cheeks wet with fresh tears, he set his coffee down and said, "Sounds like that guy's a damn fool." Clara let out a bitter laugh. "You don't even know me." "Don't need to know your whole life story to see you're worth more than that," Jack said firmly. "You're sitting here still breathing, still fighting after the worst day of your life. That ain't nothing, that's strength." Clara looked up, startled by the conviction in his voice. For the first time in hours, she felt seen, not as a rejected bride or a poor girl from the wrong side of town, but as herself. Jack offered her the couch for the night, and despite her protests, he insisted. "I'll be in my room. Door's got a lock if it makes you feel better," he said, handing her a blanket. Clara fell into an exhausted sleep, the sound of the rain fading into the background. The next morning, Clara woke to the smell of bacon and the clatter of pans. Jack was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes on a griddle. He glanced over his shoulder and grinned. "Hope you're hungry. Ain't much, but it's hot." They ate in companionable silence, and for the first time in months, Clara felt a sliver of peace. But that peace shattered when a sharp knock sounded at the door. Jack frowned and went to answer it, leaving Clara at the table. She heard voices, Jack's low and steady, another sharp and demanding. Her stomach dropped as she recognized the second voice. "Ethan." She crept to the doorway and peered out. Ethan stood on the porch, dressed in an expensive suit, his hair perfectly gelled despite the early hour. He held a bouquet of roses, but his face was tight with impatience. "I know she's here," Ethan was saying. "Her friend saw her get into your truck last night. Look, I messed up, okay? I want her back. Tell her to come out and we can forget this whole thing." Jack crossed, his arms unmoved. "She ain't a piece of property you can just claim when you change your mind. She's a person, and from what I heard, you didn't treat her like one." Ethan's face reddened. "Who the hell are you? Some grease monkey playing hero? You don't know what she needs. I can give her everything, money, status, a real future. What can you offer? A rundown shack and a dead-end job?" Jack's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "I ain't offering her anything except respect. Seems like that's more than you ever gave her." Clara stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Ethan," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Go home." Ethan's eyes widened. "Clara, baby, I'm sorry. I panicked, okay? We can still make this work. I'll buy you anything you want, a new dress, a trip, whatever." Clara shook her head, a quiet resolve settling over her. "I don't want your money. I wanted you to love me, but you never did. Not really. You loved the idea of me, someone you could mold into your perfect wife. But I'm done trying to be someone I'm not." Ethan's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake. You'll regret this when you're stuck in this dump scraping by." "Maybe," Clara said, "but at least I'll be free." She turned away and Jack closed the door in Ethan's face. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jack said, "You sure about this? He's right about one thing, I ain't got much." Clara smiled, small but genuine. "You've got enough." In the weeks that followed, Clara stayed in town. She found a job at a local diner and rented a small apartment above the hardware store. Jack became a steady presence in her life, dropping by with coffee, fixing her leaky sink, teaching her how to change a tire. He never pushed, never asked for more than she was ready to give. But as the days turned into months, Clara realized she was falling for him, not for what he could offer, but for who he was. Kind, honest, and unafraid to see her for all that she was. One evening, as they sat on the tailgate of Jack's truck, watching the sunset over the fields, Clara took his hand. "You saw something in me that night at the bus stop," she said. "Something even I didn't see. Thank you." Jack squeezed her hand, his eyes soft. I just saw you, Clara. That's all I ever needed to see. And in that moment, under the fading light, Clara knew she'd found something Ethan could never have given her, a love that saw her truly, flaws and all, and chose her anyway.